The Little Prince is a story of Antoine de Saint-Exupéry from FP Classics. And let's begin. To the Leon Birds. So we are doing the chapter number 1 of the Little Prince story. I ask the ingredients of the children who may read this book for dedicating to a grown-up have serious reason. He is the best friend I have in the world. I have another reason. Even this grown-up understand everything, even books about the children. I have the third reason. He lives in the France where he is very hungry and cold. He needs cheering up. If all these reasons are not enough, I will dedicate the book to the children from who the grown-up grew. All grown-up were once a child, all through few of them remember it. And so I correct my dedications. When the Leon Wirtz is the writer of the story, he tells us when he was a little boy. Once he was 6 years old. It saw a magnificent picture in the book called True Stories from the Nature about the primeval forest. It was a picture of a boa constrictor in the act of swallowing animal. Here is the copy of the drawing. You see, this is the book, the True Stories from Nature, and this is the image what he is showing. Swallowing act. In the book, it said boa constrictor swallow their prey whole without chewing it. After that, they are not able to move, and they sleep through the 6 months that they need for digestion. Now I pondered deeply. Then over the adventures of the jungle, after some work with a covered pencil, I succeeded to make my first drawing. My drawing number 1. It looked something like this. See that this is the boa. In his stomach there is a very big animal. It looks like a hat. He showed his masterpiece to the grown-ups and asked them whether the drawing frightened them. But they replied, "Frightened? Why would they frightened by a hat?" My picture was not of a hat. It has a picture of boa constrictor digesting an elephant, but since grown-up were not able to understand it, I made another drawing. I drew in the inside of the boa constrictor so the grown-up could see it clearly. They always need to have things explained. My drawing number 2 looked like this. See the elephant in the snake's tummy. This is the photo number 2. Then he showed this to the grown-ups. Their response that to advise to lay the drawing of boa constrictors, whether from the side or the outside, and devote myself instead to geography, history, arithmetic, and grammar. This is why at the age of 6 years I gave up what might had been a magnificent career as a painter. I have been disheartened by the failure of my drawing number 1 and drawing number 2. The grown-ups never understood anything but themselves, and it is the tiresome for the children to be always and forever explaining the things to them. So then I choose another way of profession. I learned pilot airplanes. I have flown in a little over the part of the world. It is true. that the geography has been very useful to me. At a glance, I can distinguish China from Amazonia. If one gets lost in night knowledge of valuables. Whenever I meet one of them who seemed me at all clear sight, I tried the experiment, showed him by one drawing number 2, which I have always kept. I would try to find out. So this was a person of a true understanding, but who was he or she always say, this is a hat. Now let me go to the lesson number 2 of the Little Prince. Now I'll start the lesson number 2. Then I would never talk to the person about the boa constrictors or primal forest or star. I would bring myself to the level. Talk to him about bridge, golf and politics. Or necklace, and the grown-ups would be greatly pleased to meet such sensible man. So I lived my life alone, without anyone that I could really talk to until I had an accident with my plane in the desert of Sahara crashed 6 years ago. Something was broken in my engine, and that I had with me neither mechanic or any passengers. So I set myself to attempt to the difficult repairs, and I was alone. It was a question of life or death for me. I could scarcely have enough drinking water last a week. First night, then I went to sleep on the sand, 1,000 miles from any human habitation, and the raft in the middle of the ocean. Thus you can imagine my amazement at the sunrise. I was awakened by the odd little voice. It said to me, first you will see the photo on the screen. You are seeing this little boy. He is the little prince. Yes, we are talking about who had an odd little voice, and it is a small body. Okay. So if you please, draw me a sheep. What? Draw me a sheep? I jumped to my feet, completely under thunk. I blinked my eyes hard, looking carefully around me, and saw a most extraordinary small person who stood there examining me with the great seriousness. You may see the best portrait that later I was made of him, but my drawing is continually very less charming than its model. That, however, it is not my fault. The grown-ups discouraged me to the painter's career when I was 6 years old, and I have never learned to draw anything except boas from outside and boas from inside. And then I was stuck in a problem. Now I started this sudden apparition with my eyes fairly starting out and my head was sufficient. Remember that I crashed in the desert 1,000 miles from any inhabited region, and yet my little man seems neither to the staying unnecessary among the sand, not to the being fatigue or hunger or thirst or fear. Nothing about him. He gave a suggestion of a child lost in the middle of the desert, 1,000. Here is the best portrait that I was able to make of him. So this is that tiny person. I will show you the full image. You are able to see this man. In your book, if you have a book of This then see in the book, and now I will start again. Miles from here, the human habitation. When I was last I was able to speak, I said to him, "But what are you doing here?" And the answer repeated slowly. If he were speaking to matter of the great sequence, and if you please draw me a sheep, then a mystery about two overpowering one dare not to disobey around the midnight seems to me 1,000 miles of any human habitation, and in the danger of death. I took out a pocket of a sheet of paper and the fountain pen. But then I remember how to study. I have been concentrated on geography, history, mathematics, and grammar. And I told the little chap, little crossly, "Chew, that I had do not know how to draw." He answered me, "That doesn't matter how to draw the sheep." So I had been never drawn a sheep, so I drew for him one of the two pictures I had drawn, so the outside, and ascertained to the here the little fellow agreed with him. No, it is not want an elephant inside boa constrictor. A boa constrictor is very dangerous, and elephant is very cumbersome. Where I live, everything is very small. That I need is to draw a sheep. Draw me a sheep. So then I made a drawing. Okay, I will show you a drawing. Then draw a body like this bad boy. Sheep. That is not a sheep, he said. And he looked it carefully and said, "No, that is not a sheep. Now make me another sheep." So he made another drawing of sheep. Now, so he made another drawing which looked like this body. My friend smiled and gently said, "See to yourself." He said, "This is not a sheep, it is a ram. It has horns." So then I draw even once more. Now then he draws over once more. Then he drawed it like this. But it was rejected too because it was not like others. Now it is too old. I want a sheep that will live a long time. It is an old sheep. By this, my patience was exhausted because I had hurried to start my engine apart. So I tossed off the drawing and threw about the explanation whether this is that. Now I said, and this says only a box. Sheep you asked for is inside. I was very surprised to see a light break over the face of my younger judge. That is exactly a way I wanted it to. You think this sheep will have too great deal of grass? Why? Because there was everything very small. There was surely enough grass for him. I said, "This is very small sheep that I have given to you." He bent his head over the drawing. Now so small that he has gone to sleep. And this is how advantage of the friends. Thank you for watching. Now we will do the chapter number 3 in part 2. This is the writer of the book Little footprints. Their name is Saint Exploratory at Leon Volz, the writer.